Celerie. It's so good to see you, honey. Is everyone fine in your family? Everything okay as far as the COVID? Are you isolating and everything?
Well, we're all up in New York, and my family is me and my three kids and my sort of stretched work environment of, I feel like the girls I work with are family, and so we're all disbanded. But so far, none of us have been sick, which feels like half because we're being careful and half because we've just been lucky.
Okay. All right. Okay. So it's ninth grade, Palm Beach Day school. You've graduated. Take us from here. We'll come back later on when you're finished and we'll do some reminiscing about the day school and things there. But right now, we want to know about you. Where did you go from here?
Well, after ninth grade, which was quite a year, I remember it as an unusual one for the day school because it was 9 girls and 1 boy in our class.
That's right. I remember. Who was the boy?
Carter Dillard.
Carter Dillard.
He survived. And he's, I like to think we made him a very intuitive and sensitive soul putting up with all of us.
And who were some of the women in there?
I was with Meredith Bagby.
I did her already.
You did? Oh,
yes.
Michelle Foyer.
Okay, I remember her.
Jessica Blades,
one of my neighbors.
Gosh, now I blur who survived into that very last year. Mary D. Marcellus. Who else was in my class? I wish I'd done more research because I remember Jackie left. She went off to boarding schools. Jackie Strasser.
I remember Jackie.
Nicole Robinson. I think she went off to boarding school before our last year.
There's your thing. Do you see it? Barbara's holding it up.
Oh, that is so helpful. So I see Mary. I see. Oh, Mary looks like such a tiny little thing. We had Vivian Duda.
Remember Vivian Duda?
Oh, yep, I do. And I actually stayed in touch with her for a long time. Stephanie, Danielle Weiser-Pratt, Stephanie Halimi. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was quite a class.
Yeah, and I'm looking at these pictures and we look half way too grown up and half like unborn. There's Kelly Matthews, but she was off in boarding school.
Yeah.
I think she went in 8th grade. And Kelly and I are still in touch. Oh, there's sweet Carter.
Okay, dear. So graduation, you've left the day school. Where are we headed?
I went to Groton. So I went to boarding school about an hour northwest of Boston, right on the New Hampshire border.
Groton, I remember a parent almost slapped me, a mother, because she wanted her daughter to go to Groton. I think she went. But the daughter asked me, she said, Mr. Greco, what do you know about Groton? I said, oh, great school, presidents and everything. And all I said was somewhat austere.
You were right.
And the mother came to me after school. She said, what did you tell? She wanted to hit me. A little austere, isn't it, honey? Groton.
I think you're totally right, and it's known for that. So was she trying to hide that from her daughter until they threw her in the cold showers or something? They did end those cold showers before I got there, or it wouldn't have worked.
So you're at Groton for 3 years.
I was at Groton for 3 years, and I loved aspects of it, and also found parts of it pretty difficult. Living at school, as you can imagine, is a different world from living in Palm Beach, where, I'd come home from school, throw off my shoes and, run around barefoot and on my own until dark.
Yeah.
This was New England, got dark early, and there was so much homework that they kept us tame by keeping us busy. A lot of sports too, but
you did well. Did you feel you were fairly well prepared when you got there?
I did. I felt very well prepared because I liked to read.
Yeah, you were a reader. Okay.
So, a lot of reading didn't scare me as long as the topic was interesting. I've never been able to focus on textbooks per se, but the fiction and the higher level writing was exciting for me still. And I didn't mind writing either, although that writing is always hard. I think even if you're somebody who likes it,
Right.
it's kind of like exercise, and that you're always pushing a muscle that's ready to will.
Who's improve it? I can always do better. Let me go over it one more time.
Exactly. And I'm one of those people who loves to speed and turn the page. And the process of writing, being the more work you put into it, the better it is a hard one for me, because I love to call it done. So I think I was well prepared there, and actually was compared to some of the other students, one of the things about Groton that was the best part was I was in the presence of some brilliant kids, and many of them had stronger work ethics than I did. Actually, Tom Henry and Jay Rogers, who had been in my class as younger kids, they went away to school earlier. We were reunited. So
Jay
was, I think, top of my class at Groton.
Jay Rogers, because next week I'm doing Callie Rogers.
Yeah, those Rogers kids knew how to do their homework.
Was she at Groton too, Callie?
She was a year ahead of me.
Oh, she was a year ahead, because I'm doing her next week.
She's lovely.
Yeah.
So
after Groton.
After Groton, I went to Harvard, which was a dream of a college. Again, I felt like I was given the privilege of sharing time and space with some extraordinary students, people who took their work really seriously, or their sports or their art. It was such an amazing privilege to go to a college where people really believed in themselves and were willing to push extraordinarily hard to be, to feel like they even had a seat at the table. And that kept me going, because.
Were any of your ex-classmates there with you from day school or?
So David Luntz,
remember him well.
Yeah.
David Luntz.
And Meredith Bagby.
Meredith, I interviewed her already.
And I think maybe David transferred in, but I think 3 out of our little class of 21 when we were as big as we ever were. It was kind of exciting to all be on the same campus.
So what'd you major in at Harvard, honey?
English. It's all your fault.
It was English. You majored in Wonderful.
Which I tried to break out, and I was going to psychology major, which lasted about 6 weeks until I realized it was all statistics, which just turned to mush in my head. I wanted the stories of the people, not the stories of, the quantified analysis of studies. So I quickly scooted out to where the source book reading was at least hard to put down sometimes.
Okay, so 4 years at Harvard. Now we graduate. What year is it you graduated? That would be
95.
95. And now you begin your illustrious career. Where do we start?
Well, my illustrious career started in film production. When I graduated from school, there was sort of a pretty strong artery of Harvard students. If they weren't going into investment banking or academics or into the hard sciences, a lot of them would go west to California and become Hollywood or producers or comedians, comic writers. There was a lot of, and it was sort of a surprise because Harvard isn't often thought as a school for the creative, but there was a real link between the business of film and the people who had a little, usually it was the writers, a little interest in that department, and that caught me. So I applied for a few jobs out in LA in agencies and production houses, always, so bottom of the food chain. The idea of the mailroom is real. That's where everybody started. And I did the same in New York and ended up getting job offers in New York. So I stayed on the East Coast and worked for an independent producer for a couple months and then went on to Miramax and worked in marketing there, which was really, really cool because at that time, Miramax was an independent film company.
Right.
And making, I think, some of the most exciting movies, a little bit dangerous sometimes in that they were, all over the map. And they had a really strong marketing machine that helped. They sort of invented the using the Academy Awards to draw attention to movies that had much smaller budgets. Right. And that was the marketing department. So that was where I got to sit. And
how long were you there?
Just under a year. Under a year, when a friend of mine from college came and said that she had some funding and wanted to start up an independent film production company. So I went off with her to do that. And we were pretty lucky. Our first movie did well. But over the course of becoming, for a small independent film company, successful, I realized that it wasn't what I loved doing. It became time to do it again. And I didn't know that there was a formula, and I didn't really believe that we could make it happen twice. And I realized the whole time I'd been doing it, some of the sort of most exciting days for me had been when we were designing our office. Uh-huh. Or when I was helping friends. They would come to me and ask me to help them shop for their apartments on weekends because I made it clear to everybody my happiest time was in the flea markets. So my friends would give me money and I would wake up at like 5 or 6 a.m. to go shopping for them, just for fun, just for the privilege of spending the money, which showed me kind of, one of the most important career advice that I hear repeated, which is do something you love and it won't seem like work. And I realized this thing I was doing for free was actually potentially income producing and what other people consider work. So I had been blind to that because it's what my mom did. Do you remember my mother, Mimi Maddock?
I remember her well.
Another day school student. So my mom is an interior designer, and an incredible one. And I guess you spend your childhood looking at your parents thinking they're absurd. And the last thing you imagine is that they've made the right choices for themselves and that those choices might be right for you too. And it turned out that mom was doing what I love to do. And I called her up and I asked if I could be an assistant to one of the designers she worked with in Florida. So I came back down to Palm Beach and sort of did all the grunt work for about a year, learned sort of the processes as opposed to just the creative fun of the interior design business. And then by then, a bunch of my friends in New York were buying their first apartments. And they were very trusting and asked if I would come back to New York and help them with their apartments, this time, being paid and treating it as a real job. And my mother, very generously, because I think it's a big risk to send a 23-year-old off to represent your company and do work that she's not exactly experienced enough to do. She let me run with it. And I was so lucky, right in the beginning. I had a few great clients, a few beautiful homes that came together well, and they were published, and sort of received a lot of attention. And that was it. My career took off. And I'm still doing it today.
Now, before that, honey, it's at college or anywhere, had you had any formal training in design or this or that, etc.?
I'd had no formal training, but they didn't offer any classes in interior design. I took a few architecture classes and arts history classes. I took a drawing class, which I have to tell you, when I got my report card for my drawing class, I got a C, which you'd think somebody who I do love to draw, and I think of myself as quite artistic. I got a C on my report card, and the comment was, "We didn't have the heart to give you the D you deserved." So, I guess it goes a long way to saying it's more important what you love to do than what other people tell you your abilities are.
So how long were you with your mom? Were you still with her?
I still am.
Oh, you're
I-
still, it,
I run the New York office, and there are about 7 of us who work here. And, you know, we're about 50-50 with the Florida office. And we all do work all over the country now.
wonderful, wonderful. You know, I bought a house here in 1965. Okay. I paid $30,000 for it, scraping money from the kids' piggy bank for the down payment. $30,000. It was built in 1921. It's called a sea view, sea view cottage.
Mhm.
Those cottage with bricks in the front. Oh, 1921, honey. I have people every day. I paid $30,000 for it in 1965. I have people coming every day. The last offer, the guy said, "I'll give you $2.5 million for it." And he said, "I have to tear it down the next day." Of course, you want to tear it down because it's a tear down. But there's no more land over here. There's no more land over here.
But
And-
I also think there's so few charming homes that are the right size for their land.
Yeah.
That at someday these will not be tear downs. They will be considered homes that actually represent a way of life that's sort of more wonderful. I really, my father lives in a similar, well, hopefully not similar, because I don't, his will be called a tear down. That's what I mean by similar. But it's so nice to sort of have your little house to look out and, you know, from your first floor and know that the entirety of your garden is
Well,
your home.
I got panicked a few years ago because one of my neighbors said, "Ralph," he said, "you getting any offers?" I said, "Yeah, I'm getting offers." He says, "I don't know." He says, "They're talking about landmarking it."
Oh, that
They're
That
talking
is
about,
very-
because it's called the Sea View, Sea Breeze. I'm on Sea Breeze. What did I say? But they're called the Sea View cottages. They have these big stones in front. I don't know.
they're wonderful. We live, as you know, in the old church up on the
Oh,
north end,
I remember. I remember.
and I'm very grateful for that landmark. But I'm grateful because I love the house exactly as it is,
Yeah.
and I can't imagine it changing. So
Yeah.
I'm very sentimental about it.
Your grandfather, I have some wonderful memories with him, honey. You know,
Oh, I would love to hear them because
oh, wonderful memory. Your dad was, I remember Lisa. Did you know my daughter, Lisa?
not well, but I know who Lisa is.
Okay. Lisa's 60 now. She's 60 years old now. But Lisa was a senior at Twin Lakes. Okay.
Mhm.
And your dad wanted her to go to Brown.
Oh, grandfather, but oh yeah.
Your grandfather, I meant.
Yeah.
Because he really liked Lisa. And he liked Doll, my wife, too, because she had, what's his name? It's not quite all Alzheimer's, but just from so many people. Sydney, she had Sydney in class, and that's where she met your grandfather. He was just one. Oh, Lisa, he told Lisa, "You're going to Brown," you know, so fine. So what happened was something happened. Lisa played #1 tennis at Twin Lakes for 3 years. She was the #1 tennis player. And he said, "This is it," you know. She applied, good grades, high scores, didn't get in.
Ugh.
Didn't get in. Your dad was so, there was a mix-up somewhere in the admissions office up there. They
Mhm.
didn't know about her tennis. They didn't know. He was really, really mad.
Oh
As
no.
it happened, though, she had applied to Harvard too. got into Harvard.
Ah, lucky Harvard.
And as it turned out, Eddie did. My son went to Brown. Now, he only lasted a year. Then he came and transferred to Gainesville, University of Florida. But your dad was special. Your grandfather, special. Never forgive him.
I would love to hear more because he died when I was still at the day school. So I think I was in 6th grade. So I never really got to know him as an adult. Like, I'm so curious what I would have thought.
Oh, he was something. He was something.
I hear he was cool.
So here we are now. Tell me about your family. You have 3 children.
I have
How old are
3.
they?
14 is my son Rascal, and that's just a nickname. But my daughter's named Zinnia. She's 12 now, about to be 13, and my littlest is named Wick, or William after my father, and he is 10.
10.
So we have 8th grade, 7th grade, and 4th grade.
Now, where do they go to school? Private schools, public school, Catholic schools, etc.?
They go to a private school here in New York City that's about 10 blocks from my apartment. It's a new one. It's called Avenues. And it was started by a bunch of teachers and school presidents. And they're really trying hard to sort of, I guess, be a little bit more adaptive and progressive and create a sort of national school, a little bit more like the lycée system.
Okay.
So my kids are fluent in Chinese.
Oh, really?
Well, my 2 youngest, my eldest is now taking Spanish, but.
Just be sure the school has a lot in English department. They do a lot of writing and a lot of grammar and a lot of usage and things like that. So they can use the language.
It's been a big worry of mine that this would come at the cost of what I think is the most important. And I think it has to a small degree, but luckily all my kids love to read. So
that's 90%. If they're readers, honey, they're okay.
Yeah, that makes me feel safe in whatever happens.
Okay, so here we are at this stage in your life. Now let's go back and reminisce about Palm Beach Day School. Were you a lifer?
I was, well, I don't know if I get full credit because I came the 2nd year of kindergarten.
The 2nd year of kindergarten.
Or whatever you call it, of nursery. So I didn't come for the pre. I went to a Montessori school first.
Yeah, no, I think you're okay.
I count as a kindergarten. I mean, I still remember when Betsy Titcomb showed up and she was the new girl.
Betsy Titcomb.
Yep. That was in the 2nd year of nursery school. And I remember thinking like, new meat.
Let me just throw some things out and see if you remember them. You remember the speech unit?
Very well. The 1-minute speech.
Do you remember your 10-minute final?
I remember the feeling of getting ready to give it. I have no idea what I talked about.
Okay. All right. I'd be surprised because I asked some of the kids, and some of them, they have it all done. Do you remember some of the books? Do you remember The Count of Monte Cristo?
Very well.
Very well. Did you like it?
I did. And actually, my son's favorite book is The Yearling.
Oh, The Yearling. Remember Cyrano de Bergerac?
Very well, too.
75 lines.
Oh, my memory. Talk about the one who doesn't remember anything. I was
Caesar, the 75 lines that you had. Yes. Okay.
I think I actually could probably pull a few lines of Shakespeare out because of you, but it's like salad in here.
That's okay. That's okay. But you did it. You did it. That was the important thing. You did it.
I did it. And I think that the speech class was probably one of the best lessons, not just because, of course, if we can't speak, we are completely trapped in our ideas and not able to sell any of our conviction. But I think dealing with terror, that the confrontation of knowing how much it hurts to get up and push yourself through something, but to have to practice and prepare to do your best, I think that's crossed over every part of life.
Honey, remember, that survey they did how many years ago? I forget what it was. They surveyed how many thousands of people. What do you fear most in life? Public speaking was number one. You know what number two was? Death. They feared public speaking more than death. But you could see, I've had kids get up there and freeze. I've had parents come in and tell me, I'm gonna have to take her out because she can't do this. She can't do this. Just be patient. We're going to start off, if you remember, we started with the 1-minute speeches, and taking notes and going over everything. And then once those were finished, then we went to the 3-minute. You had 1 week to prepare. Then the 5-minute, the 7-minute, then the 8-minute.
I mean, you're giving me heart palpitations now.
10-minute final. And you were under the time thing, remember? Like for the 10-minute, it was 9 to 11. You had to be within that time thing on all of these.
The clock just did not move fast enough, as I remember.
I've had parents come and say, you can't ask kids to do that. I said, watch. We'd have kids come up there, 10-minute speech, timing, 10 minutes, 5 seconds. And remember, I don't know if you remember, during your speech, you had to maintain 100% eye contact during your introduction with the audience, 100% eye contact with the conclusion, and 90% during the whole speech. And parents have said, those kids can't, yes, they could do it. Yes.
I remember my index cards.
The cards and
the outline and not writing, not memorizing it, but working off the outline.
And everything. They did it. And I've had so many kids come and say, Mr. Greco, enjoyed all the stuff, but that was the most helpful in mine. So many of the kids, all the ones I've been interviewing, there's 6 college professors, honey, so far. Okay. 3 doctors of philosophy, 1 from Oxford, all these people. They all have to talk. You talk during your presentations and that, I'm sure.
It is a skill more important than my ideas, is being able to convey the idea.
Convey the ideas, that's right.
I also, going back to something that I have to be forever grateful for. I don't know if you'll remember this, but you devised a special grading system for me because I was such a horrible spaz. And you may not want any of your students hearing this, but I remember you saying to me, I don't know what to do with you. Your spelling is so bad that if I actually took the points off your grade, you'd fail for the year. You wouldn't be able to advance to the next grade because you took 5 points for every misspelled word.
Before the computer, honey, I used to tell students, if you're a bad speller, if you're a girl, get a boyfriend who's a good speller. And if you're a boy, get a girlfriend who's a good speller. So they can, now with the computer though, they check and there's no.
It's not a problem now, but I was pre-computer and you
pre-computer, right.
I was pre-computer and you said, it's really not fair. You'll be below a 60 just if I ding you for the first 3 pages of your report, and you've written a pretty nice paper. And what you used to do is read my misspelled words out loud during study hall to the 7th grade boys.
And they would let you hear about it, right?
Oh, I mean, I tried so hard. I still had a million misspelled words, but I remember you reading some essay I'd written about my father making pea soup, but I'd spelled it P-E-E soup. And all the boys were talking about how rough it must be in my family where my dad pees in the soup.
Oh boy. No, but always I always have emphasized the grammar, the usage, the right pronouns, things like that. The spelling, though, I put different thing because some people just have problems with spelling. They'd write beautiful papers, but the spelling would be bad. Well, go back over it and see. Well, get someone to go over it with you. Let them circle the wrong one, then look it up, and we're okay. But it's the writing itself that I didn't want to punish people who were really good writers like you. because they couldn't spell.
You saved me. I don't think any school would have accepted me if my grades had matched had matched mathematically to the other system.
I think those were the only low grades you ever got were spelling, though, right? In English.
I think that was pure catastrophe there.
Yeah.
But you and Mr. Bayless were fantastic English teachers. I'm so lucky.
Yeah. He's at Benjamin now, you know. He teaches at Benjamin.
Is he still teaching English?
He's still, no, he's teaching, what's he teaching? History, and I forget what else. Drama. And history. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So what else? What other things do you remember that stick with you?
I mean, it's funny. I think in grade school, you remember the things that scare you. And so definitely the speeches. I remember forgetting my lines, whatever 4 or 5 lines I had in the school play. But I remember, so I have a whole list of the people, and the things and the tests that frightened me. But I also remember the smells. So clay. If I smell any kind of wet clay, I think of Mrs. Thayer, Dodie Thayer. And I remember wanting to impress Mrs. Rafter and Mrs. Skinner. Like, to me, their esteem outside of yours and Mr. Bayless's, because I wanted you guys to think I got the material we were reading, and I wanted your blessing as capable. Outside that, I really loved sports, and I was, you know, my identity as a flamingo was like tribal. And I still feel that way. It kills me that my kids don't get to be flamingos. It's one of the biggest failings with New York. I remember doing the high jump, which wasn't even my event, but just like the 2 or 3 weeks. How long did we actually practice for field day? Do you remember?
2 weeks, I think. 2 weeks before they let you practice.
It was the most exciting time of, like, forget Santa Claus. It was like when they would bring out those big pads for the hopping and line off to the right or the left and decide if we were scissor kicking or flopping. Like, I don't think I've ever had that much like anticipation in anything in my life. And the running broad jump, that was always my event. It was that and a dash. That I like, my self-esteem still rests, I think, in those like sports achievements.
It with the almost all girls class, right?
Mm-hmm.
So much drama.
It's funny though. I feel like the ones that got left behind were the least dramatic of our class. So it was a little bit more like this sort of pleasant ant farm mentality. We all went about our business, but there wasn't a hierarchy of cool girls or not. Like, I think we got so small that everybody was just nice.
Yeah. 8th grade, how big was the 8th grade? There were what, 3 sections?
I think we had 2. It was back in the day when it was like the A class and the B class.
Right.
And I think I was a bridge because I was never very good at math. So I was in all the B class maths, but I got to be in the A class English stuff. At least that's how I thought of it in my head. And I think we were only like 22, which seemed normal then, but now seems so small. How big are the classes these days?
I'm trying to think of that. You know, I've been here 53 years, honey. So the years I have a hard time placing this.
Yeah.
In people, and the only classes I really can associate students with are the ones Lisa with my daughter was in, and the ones my son was in, because I can associate those. I had, when was it, a couple of years ago, a young lady, I hadn't seen her since she left. And she came to see me. It was after school, and how are you? I knew her, I recognized her. And I said, what a jerk. I said, let's see, you're a senior in college now. She looked at me, she said, Mr. Greco, I'm a partner in a law firm.
Oh, I'm sure she was flattered.
37 years old. She did look great. I mean, I
That's
remembered her. I remembered her. And it's just all those years, all those students and everything.
I mean, I feel like now I can't remember my children when they were 4, 6, and 8. It's
Yeah.
so quick because also I think the more we stay in the same place and things shift and change on us, you don't notice them.
Keep one thing in mind about children, honey. You're going to blink. They're going to be gone.
Oh, it's going to make me cry.
Enjoy,
I mean,
enjoy them. You're going
I feel it all the time. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, who would come? It's so fast, you know? But I think that things like all of grade school, you know, where you go to the same place every morning, you can't see the changes, you know? And I think that makes it hard. It's the big fractures we notice, you know, when sorry, it gets me teary. I'm such a sentimental person.
See?
Yeah.
Well,
Change.
this has been so nice.
It's wonderful.
Sometimes when you get to Palm Beach after this coronavirus is over, and give me a call when you're going to be here and we'll go to lunch. Okay?
I would love to do that. I need some stories about my grandfather.
I got a few for you. Yes. He was something. He was something. He really, and he loved Lisa, my daughter, because she was real athletic. You know, running broad jump, she still has a record for the school.
She
jumped,
does?
Oh, she jumped. I forget how far it was. She was the best tennis player on the team, of course. She was.
Well, I'm probably going to be very resentful about that the running broad jump, because I'm sure that was something I had hoped to match or meet.
Yeah, but no. But you get to Palm Beach often?
I come down, well, until this year. I used to come down 6 times a year, but always pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because of the kids' school.
Right.
But I come for Christmas vacation and a week of spring vacation, and as often as I can. This year's weird.
Once this is over and you know you're coming down, give me a call beforehand and we have a lunch date, okay?
I'd love that.